Now that we've given you a general overview of how things work in the new Snippet Manager, I would like to take you the next step, and that is showing you how to take shared snippets and basically share them. There are two things that should be done. One is you need to fork the JCB community snippets on GitHub, so you'll need a GitHub account. The second thing is once you've done that, you would export the snippets here that you would like to contribute, and you will add it to this repository that you forked and cloned down to your developing environment, and you would make commit messages on every change that you are intending to make. The second thing you'll then do, although there are a few steps in each of these things, the second thing is that you would then make a pull request. So this tutorial, I'm just going to focus on the first few things you need to do. And that is just to get you basically ready, all the things you need to do until the very point when you are now ready to actually do a pull request. Okay, so now there are three things that I suspect we can do. One is to improve a already existing snippet and then contribute that to the community. The second thing is to move an existing snippet to a new type. This isn't something I hope will happen often, but it can happen that a snippet is in a specific type that is not the best suit for it, and you might want to suggest us changing that. So that would be a second thing. And the third one would be to actually add a whole new snippet completely. So I think I'm just going to demonstrate all three of those, and then we'll see how that all plays out until the very point where we are now ready to make a pull request. Okay, so first thing first, we need a repository, and we need to understand Git. Now, if you do not know Git, this tutorial is not going to cover that. You'll need to do your homework and study up on Git. When you do an export of a package, for example, if I were to click here on these three here and click share snippets, you'd see that it ends up showing you a bunch of links here, and one of them is Quick Start for Git on Udemy. Now this link here, I just searched on Google, found it. I didn't actually watch it myself. I hope it's not bad. If you've got a better one, please share it on the issues somewhere, and we'll improve this link. Or even if you've got your own and you would like us to promote your tutorials on Git, sure, why not? We will support those who support our community very gladly. The reality is you need to get your head around some of the Git basics so that you can actually do a fork of the JCB snippets on GitHub and then make a pull request. So this video here is the one I'm busy making. So it will end up being that link, how to fork the JCB snippets and get all this done. And then after that I'll be making this video, so we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, now you need an account on GitHub, and so I'm just going to use my own account and simply go and fork the repository and use that as a demonstration. So needless to say, I've got an account, I've gone through all those hoops, and now I'm simply going to fork this repository. To get to this repository, it's this URL up here. Another way to get here is you go to get snippets, and then the moment it's finished loading, there is a link that you can click which will take you to the GitHub repository, and it's this link over here. So we could click that, and as you see, we end up at the same place. Okay, good. So you could either just follow this URL up here, or we could just use that link. But you want to get to Joomla component builder snippets, and I suppose since everybody that wants to contribute will need to fork it, I suspect this numbers here will change. And of course, well, this repository is like 6 days old. I haven't even finished the README, So there will be a lot of changes to this repository, and it will improve. So the first thing you do is click on this button here and fork the repository. This will then ask you to select where you want to fork it if you belong to organizations or whatever, but then obviously by then I don't need to explain to you how it works. But if for some reason you don't, then you'll select your personal or whatever organization you want the fork to appear in, and then it will basically copy this repository for you. Okay, so now it's busy doing that. I'm basically just copying it into my personal account. Now, good practice. Every time you want to make a change, then you need to follow a few steps in having this repository in sync with the what we call upstream repository. This vdm.io Joomla component builder snippets, this is what we call the upstream, or the master branch, or whatever you want to call it. This is the main branch, the one that is being used inside of JCB. Yours isn't directly being used, so whatever changes you make here would not necessarily affect us at all. But you obviously want to commit your changes to your branch and then make a pull request to the upstream branch where you would like to share this with the community. So that's sort of a quick explanation. We'll do this slowly. I'm not going to do the pull request now in this tutorial, but I'll take you all the way up to the wall and then we'll get the ladder out and finish that in the next tutorial. Okay, so once you've done this forking of the main repository, you need to clone this repository down to your own developing environment. And so that is what I'll do next. You would click on this clone, and depending on how you've got Git set up on your developing environment, again, those tutorials you'll need to do before coming here, you would select either SSH or HTTPS. I would suggest using SSH, as this is of course more secure, but okay. So we'll just copy that, and then we go to, I'm just going to use my my user's home folder for now. So here I am in the command line. I'm running Linux, so if you're using Windows, you'll need to watch tutorials on how to do Git in Windows. You might end up using a tool instead of command line, but if you did that, you'll also be having had watched the tutorials to help you sort of understand what I'm doing. Okay, so first thing first, we're going to clone it. So let's get that done. So I've cloned it, and we now have a folder called Joomla component builder snippets. So I'm going to change into that folder now, just with CD and the folder name, and there we go. I'm in the folder, and if I do ls/la, we'll basically see all the files that was on GitHub now in that folder. Now we want to change these files, but we're not going to change them directly. We are going to use JCB to do the dirty work for us, because we might have issues with escaping and all kinds of things that can go wrong. So just to have good convention, whatever changes you want to make, even if you want to add files, new libraries, whatever, you do it in JCB and you do the export package. And you should check that if you export a snippet, that it has 3 values always set. And that those 3 values, well, we'll obviously scrutinize it when you make a pull request, but that those name conventions be standard. It's quite important. As you can see this, we've got the library name UIKit, and it's uppercase U and space lowercase v2, and then common with an uppercase, and that is the type of snippet, and then it's the name, and obviously it's a JSON file. So this is the convention, and at this stage JCB builds that for you, and I'm going to show you where it gets this convention, because to follow this convention is what's really going to be very important. If you're making new snippets for the UIKit version 2 library, you need to ensure that your version 2 naming in your system is the same as it is here. And if you are adding a new library that isn't already in our repository, then you need to make sure that you use the naming as found, well, as others will understand it, as most common. The most common naming convention. And obviously if you need help on that, you can open an issue and ask one of the admin to, maybe give you a suggestion of what to call the library. But the short end of it is, please stick to the naming conventions. Don't change this UI kit to maybe remove the space here or something like that, because it will end up just mismatching things, and we want to avoid that from happening. Okay, so first thing we've done, we've forked the repository and we've now cloned it to our offline developing environment. And now I'm going to go to JCB, and I'm going to export those 3 snippets. The one is a new snippet, the second is a changed or improved snippet, and then the third is when you actually move a snippet to a different type. The one I'm going to target here is, let me see, I think it's not showing here now. Oh, here it is, food table. The food table snippet is at the moment in layout. I think there is a better type for this snippet, and I know the snippet isn't at this stage maybe the best. We could add some more food table snippets, but I'll leave that to some of you to do. The point is, I'm going to move this one to the tables, because it is a table, right? So that will be the one change I'm going to make. Then I'm going to add one snippet to the UIKit version 3. Since those snippets are still coming, I'll just add one as demonstration, and then I'll make a little change to one of these snippets just for demonstration. Okay, great, let me do that. Okay, first thing, a food table. Click on that one, change it from layout to tables. I'm not going to make any other changes, I'm just changing the type, and this brings us to those 3 values that must always be set and shouldn't change unless it's really seriously necessary. The one is the name. You wouldn't want to change this name unless you are 100% sure it should be changed, because in effect it will create a new snippet. Because the way the snippets work, it builds the file name with the name, the library, and the type. Those 3 components together makes up the file name. So changing any of those will in effect create a new snippet and create a duplicate. And that's really what I would try to avoid that. And I realize this is what I'm doing here now is inevitably gonna cause that. And I think it will show you why it's not a good thing to do it. But so I'm doing this more really for demonstration. And so the ideal reality is that when we add a snippet, we add it to the correct library and type and give it the correct name from the start, and that we don't need to change those 3 again. If we do, most of the time I would expect that your pull request will be rejected, because this will mess up many conventions and cause many duplicates across the system in other developers' environment, where they would import this new snippet and yet end up having 2 of the same snippets. Okay, I've said enough about that. I hope you understand how important this part is. So let's go ahead, save and close. The next one I'm going to do is basically add a new snippet. Now, since I've done this recording second time now, I've already done that, and this is this accordion snippet here. So you'll see that I've basically said that it's a JavaScript snippet, it's an accordion, it's UIKit version 3. I looked down these types. I'm wondering if some of the other guys won't be better at this identifying of the types. So I might even not be the guy to make the call on this. I really am open to some with better perspective who maybe knows these libraries sorting ideas better. I think there's a place called, what is it? collapse. Yeah, collapse. Accordions could also fit under this collapse, I suppose. Well, let me do that. I know that the first accordion we added for UIKit version 2, that is actually found under JavaScript, but then we didn't have these many types. So I'll just add it under this collapse for now. Again, I realize that this might be a difficult thing, and what could help is going back to the actual library itself. This is the link for it, and to try and see how they organized it. And that's the problem. UIKit didn't give more breakdown besides calling it components. So it's only called a component. It doesn't specifically add it into a type, whereas Bootstrap is doing a little better at that. So that's why I'm not sure exactly where to place it now. Since Bootstrap actually adds it under collapse, I think we won't go wrong to do the same. So save and close. There we go. We've got now a very crazy, risky change of a type and a new snippet. Now let me take another snippet and just make a little improvement to it. I think I'll use this UIKit version 2 form snippet. I'm just going to add some usage information to it. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to save it. Save and close. So now I've made a change basically to this one, and that one. And so those are the only ones I'm actually going to share. Now this one, when I created it, it added my details as the contributor, which if you created a snippet, it will add your details. You'll notice when you create a new snippet, it takes a while before it's finished saving. And it's because it's actually phoning GitHub and trying to see if there isn't a snippet already with that relationship, as I explained in the previous tutorial. And that takes a while. I'm still wondering if that's the best idea, if we should continue doing that. I'm open for suggestions, but at this stage we're just trying to confirm that that snippet wasn't already created and to avoid conflicts. Now that means if it doesn't find it, it adds your details, which is set here in the option, global options. And as I explained in that tutorial, you can add your details and you would get some exposure out there in the community with your details there. With these that I've just changed, the contributor will stay the same, but your name will come in on the blame layout, and your GitHub name will display there as recognition for your support. Okay, so now next thing, share snippets. Now the reason I made it that it actually compiles a zip file is because it's easier to move around. We could argue that we might want to just have it zip or move, rather move the files right into your local cloned folder. And so I am thinking at this stage maybe we should add a switch here in the global options that could make you choose it to do this or the other depending on what is most convenient for you. So I'm going to go take this snippet, and then I'm going to go and basically unzip it into that repository that we have cloned. So here we are in that folder. I'm going to first unzip it right here. So there is those 3 files that we want to make part of the repository. Now, like I said, I actually cloned the repository right into my user folder. So let us go to that folder. Just gonna cut this here, cut, and then paste it right into that folder. Now we are updating one file, so it's asking it already contains this file. Now, so when you make an improvement on a file, you'll obviously have to replace it. So we'll click replace. Now that you've added those 2 new files and you have replaced one of them, the third one, you'll see that we now have this food table, the tables version, and we have it also the layout version. Now one of them needs to go. We don't want duplicates. So you'll have to remove this one, but don't remove it via the interface. Use git to remove the file so that you can also add a message so that when you make your pull request and we see that our file's removed, that we'll know why you did it. And obviously then it will become a discussion, and this we'll demonstrate in the next tutorial. Okay, so let's get back to command line. Here we are. We can say git status to see what's happened, and we see, wow, okay, one has been modified and these two have been added. Now the first thing we want to do is remove the one that we don't want. Now because we have chosen to leave spaces within our file names, you'll need to put the file name in quotations to ensure that it actually, not misunderstand what you're doing. So we'll do a git rm for remove, and then the file name. So you could click tab after typing food table about there, and then layout, and it will basically grab the name for you, and then click enter. So it has removed it. If we now do git status, we'll see that it's in the deleted area, and you need to actually make a commit to explain what you've done. So it's git commit m and removed table layout since I moved the food table snippet to the tables type. So we're not at this stage exactly sure how we are going to what kind of conventions we're going to follow with these commit messages. There are reasons to have a few conventions here. I just haven't had time to sort of get my head around it. So for now, we'll just keep it basic, but I'm sure as the community develops, these things will become more explained, and so if you need help, we'll most probably have some documentation up at some stage to get you to know how to correctly do a commit message. I mean, just what you should say first and what you shouldn't say and those kind of things. Okay, so I've got a key that signs off every commit I make. You may not have that. Don't worry about it. It's not really compulsory at this stage. It's just a way I can make sure that everybody knows that it's me. Okay, now the next thing here is we want to add these new files. So as we do git status, we'll see that now that file has been made part of the commit of the branch or the local files of this clone, and we want to add those two other files. The first one I'm going to target is adding the food table, which we've just removed. So git status, oops. Okay, so now we've got that one added, and we need to give it a commit message. Now, I understand when we are doing such a dangerous thing as moving a snippet to another type, I would expect us to actually make a commit message for every step of what we are doing. But if you're adding like a whole new library and you've got like 300 new snippets that you're contributing, I wouldn't mind you adding all of that under one commit message. Just making sure that it was exported via Joomla's component builder, so that we don't have the wrong kind of code within those snippet files. And obviously we will, at the pull request, we'll scrutinize those files, and we will have to look through them to ensure that it won't make anyone's system unstable. And so we're basically going to police some of this to ensure that nothing gets merged into the master branch that will put anyone at risk as much as far as we are able to prevent that. We want to do that. Well, we're working with snippets, so it should be fine, but just in case, we want to be careful. So when you're making changes to one specific snippet and you're not really like doing many at a time, I think be as detailed as you can in your commit messages, because the more we know of what you're doing, I think the easier it will be to merge it into the branch and to basically approve your pull request. So the next commit message, I'm just going to say git commit message update the food table layout food table.json to food table table food table.json, since it is more correct snippet type. Okay, so that would then deal with that added file. Now we want to add the accordion, which is the new snippet. So it's just git add, and we can select the file name. There is a shortcut to this. It's when you use the get add, and that's usually when you have lots of files. You just want to add them all. So it's like I explained, if you're doing a whole bunch of snippets for a specific library. And I would suggest doing library per library instead of just mixing them all up, because if we target a library and just add a bunch of snippets for it and then have a commit message just for that, then we could explain that within the commit message that it's for the specific library and so forth. Because usually with new libraries, it's good for us to sort of take it one step at a time. Okay, so now we've added that file. Now we're just going to add a commit message for it. I'm just going to say added the accordion snippet for UIKit version 3 as demonstration on how this should work. Okay, and then just again sign off that's a commit. Git status. We'll see, okay, we've got one file left and we are already 3 commits ahead of our branch that we have cloned. So just this last file, which is the the update we made. So we're going to first add the file and then add a commit message to explain what we did. Added a usage paragraph to explain how to use the UIKit version 2 layout form. Yeah, I think just writing out the file name like that is clear enough, and enter. Again, just sign off on that. Again, if you don't have keys to, then it's good. Go Google this, start signing your requests. But at this stage, it's not a requirement, as I said. Okay, if we do git status now, we'll see that we are 4 commits ahead. Now, this is here where we want to do a few more things to your commit, to your forked and therefore cloned repository. Is what we want to do something that will keep your repository in sync with the upstream. So I'm just going to go and Google this quickly. Okay, this is a very helpful document. We first need to do this: configure a remote that points to an upstream repository. So let's first look at that one. So this gives you a little explanation of what you should do. So first you'd basically list the current remote branches that you have. So I've done that, and it shows us that I've got this git, the origin, and it's the fetched and the pushed remote branches. Now it's going to say specify a new remote upstream repository that will be synced with this fork. So we'll use the original owner and the original repository name, which in our case is the following. The original owner is this vdm.io and the repository is this one. So to get that name, you could come here and I think you could get this name here. There we go, that part. Copy. So going back to our little tutorial, we will now type the get, and I suppose you'll have to get the HTTPS version, since you will not have permission to work with the SSH version. So let's get the HTTP one, which basically means that you should click HTTP here and then grab that version, just copy it, and Control Shift V will paste it in into command line, or some command lines even gives you this option to paste with the mouse. Okay, so now we've got that there, and we press enter. So it's now typo. Let me try again. I didn't add remote add, so it was looking for a file. Okay, there we go. Now if we did that version, we'll see now it has this upstream there as well. Okay, so that was just to add the remote or the upstream repository to the cloned version that you have here. Now let's go see how to keep it in sync. So here it says that you would open the terminal and you would do git fetch upstream, and it will basically pull down this and make sure that there is a branch called upstream master. Then you would check out master and switch to the master branch and do merge upstream master, which if while you were busy doing these snippets improvements and things, and there's been commits to the master branch, you want to make sure that you actually, before pushing all this upstream, before making a pull request, that you first merge the already changes from the master branch into your branch and then make your commits on top of that. This will help to try and avoid you not having specific commits in your branch. I know it gets a little bit complicated, but if you get stuck, we will most of the times be able to just help you figure this out again. But like I explained in the beginning, to know how to work with Git is really your responsibility, so that when you are wanting to communicate, or share with the community snippets, you'll know how to first make a pull request, merge your upstream with your master branch, and ensure that you're up to date with that before making a push up to your branch. And yes, I hope you understand. Anyway, if you don't, please Google it and do some homework to get your Git knowledge all freshened up and ready. Now I know we didn't make any changes to the master branch during this tutorial, so I can demonstrate the process of git fetch upstream, and it will do that. But since I know that we didn't actually make any changes, in the end of the day, we will not be really seeing any great fireworks happening right now. And I suppose some of you will experience it a little different, especially if there's been changes to the upstream while you been working. So git check out master. It's usually the branch that you're on, but just to make sure you're already on the master branch, then git merge. Oops, I missed out the git there. Merge upstream master, and it says like now it's already up to date. If it wasn't, it will actually merge those two branches with the changes you've made. Now that's what you should do before you do the following. Git push, which will now take these changes you've made, and you want to push them to origin. Origin master. Now everything you've done, all the commits you've made, all the commit messages, the files you removed, all of that now gets pushed up to your cloned version on GitHub. So if we go to your version now on GitHub and we just refresh the page, it'll say this branch is 4 commits ahead of VDM IO master, which means you are now ready to make a pull request. A pull request is what we'll deal with in the next tutorial. So everything we've done so far in this tutorial is to get the snippets that you've changed, the contributions you want to make, into the branch that you forked, and to do it in a way that you're not completely out of sync with the master branch, which is living basically on vdm.io Joomla component builder snippets. This is the master branch that you forked. So you've got those commits in your forked branch, and now you want to actually make a pull request to merge these changes you've made into that master branch so that it will eventually become available to the whole community of JCB. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any issues, please Google, do research. Git is an amazing technology, and the quicker you can get your hands on it and become comfortable with working with it, the better. Okay, next tutorial we'll deal with the pull request.